What is up, bros and broettes? I am Inkslasher, and today we are looking at tips and tricks in Call of Duty World War II, specifically what I believe to be the 5 best basic training skills in Call of Duty World War II. If you haven't already played the game and don't know what basic training skills are, basically they're perks. Generally, these perks in Call of Duty World War II most of the time do more than one thing because you're only able to use one of them, whereas in previous Call of Duty games, most of the time you'd use 3 different perks. So that's really the main difference between basic training and perks. However, today we're going to be looking at what I believe to be the top 5 in Call of Duty World War II. Now, as always, guys, if you find this video informative, you enjoyed it, and maybe it makes you a better Call of Duty player, it would be very greatly appreciated if you could hit that like button. Now, I did do a lot of research before making this video. I looked at what other YouTubers were saying the best perks were, aka basic training skills were, and there was one that I very strongly disagree with. A lot of people were saying requisition was one of the best basic training skills in the game. And if you don't know what requisition is, basically it makes it so you're only able to get your kill streaks once per game. They cost more, but when you die, the score you earn towards them doesn't reset. So if you want to earn a ball turret, which is the highest kill streak currently in the game, it would cost 3,600 score. You could only earn it once, but if you die, your score still counts toward earning that ball turret, which is good for a player who may not be able to earn that normally. That being said, though, I definitely don't think it's one of the best perks in the game. Reason being, it doesn't make you any better as a player. All it does is make kill streaks or score streaks easier to earn. Whereas if you use a different perk, you're still able to earn those score streaks. It might be a little bit more difficult, but you can use a basic training skill that will literally make you better as a player. Whereas requisition simply does not. So before we get into the top 5, I'm going to start with 3 honorable mentions, and the reason why these are not in the top 5 but are honorable mentions is because these basic training skills are definitely very good, but they're only good in certain circumstances. For example, the first honorable mention we're looking at here is Inconspicuous. This one grants quieter movement speed and faster movement speed while crouched. This is a great perk. It's basically dead silence from previous Call of Duty games. It makes it so anyone using a headset can't sound whore and hear where you're coming from. This is a fantastic perk and 100% necessary on pretty much any class you use for search and destroy. That being said, it's not really necessary for any other game mode, and because of that, it becomes in at an honorable mention. Like I said, if you're playing search and destroy, this perk is almost 100% needed, whereas if you're playing any other game mode, it's good, but I think some other perks or basic training skills do a little bit better. The next one here is Forage. Now, Forage resupplies bullets from killed enemies and you swap weapons faster. Now, this is a good perk, don't get me wrong. It's basically Scavenger from previous Call of Duty games. However, it's not needed. A lot of people use this perk because if you're going on really long kill streaks, you need to get more bullets for the weapon that you're using or you're simply going to run out. That being said, though, you're able to hold 2 different weapons at the exact same time. So, while you're running around slaying everyone, you might as well go in and pick up someone else's weapon. It basically does the same thing as this perk. You get more bullets, the only difference is it's for a different weapon. I just don't think it's a necessary perk, and some other perks, aka basic training skills, are going to help you out a little bit more. So the final honorable mention goes to Scoped. Now this you get from prestiging the infantry division once, and what it does is while aiming down sights you have less idle sway and you can move faster. So less idle sway is great in this game. Main reason, a lot of the assault rifles that are really good and highly used in this game, like the BAR and the STG, both have really high idle sway, so this will help with that. But the other perk is move faster while aiming down sights. Basically, this works like the stock attachment from previous Call of Duty games. The only downside to this is if you use the infantry division, you already get this increased movement speed while aiming down sights. So basically, it's only useful to use this perk if you're not already using the infantry division. Therefore, it's only super useful when using any other division. That being said, it's still a very good perk and just barely missed being on the top 5 list. And speaking of the top 5 list, the first one we have here is Flanker. So, the description of this is, while moving quickly, you are hidden from enemy recon aircrafts and a bonus, delayed detonation of enemy mines. So basically, this is Ghost from previous Call of Duty games. While you're moving and running around, you don't show up on the enemy's UAV. That being said, if you're using a weapon without a silencer, you're still going to show up on the enemy's UAVs. Not to mention, if you use a silencer in Call of Duty World War II, you're using it on an SMG, and it really nerfs the range on those weapons. I don't suggest doing it whatsoever. So really, this is only useful if you're not shooting at people. Therefore, it's kind of a pain in the ass to use this perk, because if you are using it, you're still going to be showing up when you're shooting your weapon anyway. That being said though, if you're one of those people who like being sneaky, not showing up on the enemy UAV, and kind of trying to throw off your enemies that way, this perk is very good. Like I said, just like Ghost from previous Call of Duty games. Also, there's delayed detonation of enemy mines, which basically means you were able to run past bouncing Bettys without them killing you, which of course is super useful. Coming in at number 4, we have Hustle. Now this is interesting because this is one of the few basic training skills in the game that only does one thing, and all it does is reload faster and while sprinting. In other words, you can be sprinting and reloading, and the reload time for all the weapons is going to be a little bit faster. This is simply a perk that makes you a better soldier. It makes it so with those weapons like the BAR that kill incredibly quickly, but they just have a small magazine, it kind of makes up for that just a little bit. And I highly recommend using this if you're a person who rushes and plays really aggressively, because with a lot of the weapons in this game, they have small magazines with long reload times. This counteracts those long reload times, making it so you can kill more enemies faster without having to worry about that pesky reload time. So the next basic training skill here is probably one of the most underrated in the entire game, and it is Instincts, and it does two things. First of all, you are able to detect enemy explosives, and second of all, you get a warning when you're targeted off screen. So let me explain to you what exactly this does. So the first thing, you detect enemy explosives. So basically, if there's a bouncing Betty laying on the ground, it shows up as bright yellow and incredibly easy to see. So you don't have to worry about bouncing Bettys anymore. However, that's actually not the good part about this perk. The good part is that when you're targeted off screen, you are alerted. So basically, if you're not looking at an enemy and they are looking at you, you get this little yellow highlight that goes around the border of your screen, which basically tells you if you need to turn around and shoot at someone or dive behind cover, or so on and so forth. The only problem with this basic training skill is it's a little too good. For example, if you run into the middle of the map and you're just appearing on an enemy screen, not even necessarily that they're aiming at you, your screen's going to turn yellow and it'll make it look like the enemy is looking right at you. Therefore, you're all of a sudden panicking, wondering who's looking at you, even though no one is, you're just on their screen. However, this alert does let you know that you're in the vicinity of an enemy and that you can look around, find them, and kill them before they find you. Basically, all this is going to do is when you're getting used to the game and learning all the maps, it's going to tell you when someone's looking at you, therefore making you kind of a little bit more used to where the different sight lines are on the map. And in fact, this is a great perk for beginners. However, the next perk I'm going to talk about is a little bit better for those players who are a little bit more experienced. So the basic training skill at number 2 is Lookout, and what this one does is enemy targets appear from further away and increased minimap coverage. So the minimap basically gets a little bit bigger, but that's not the good part about this basic training skill. It's that enemy targets appear from further away. What does that exactly mean? Basically, if you are looking out off into the distance, you don't even have to be aiming down sights. The name of your enemy in bright red letters is going to appear above their head. Therefore, if they're behind a head glitch, hiding in a window, so on and so forth, you're going to be able to see them without even aiming at them, therefore making you know where to aim and where to kill that person. I really do think that this is one of the biggest well-kept secrets of the game. There was a perk called Stalker back in Modern Warfare 3 that did this exact thing and was deemed overpowered by almost the entire Call of Duty community. This perk is going to improve your kill death simply by putting it on. Remember how earlier in the video I said you wanted basic training skills or perks that were going to make your soldier in Call of Duty a better soldier? That's not what this perk does. This perk simply makes you a better player by making it easier for you to see enemies. This works especially well if you're using a long-range weapon like a sniper rifle. For example, on Operation Neptune, when you're shooting off into the distance, I highly recommend using a class with Lookout because you're going to be able to tell which enemies are actually other players and which enemies are just AI that aren't going to actually attack the objective. It's incredibly useful, especially in those long-range gunfights like I was saying. And finally, at number 1, we got Primed, and this should really be no big surprise to anyone. What this one does is you get an additional primary attachment and flinch less when shot. So this once again was a previous perk in other Call of Duty games called Toughness. When you get shot, you flinch less, making it easier to aim at enemies. It does the exact same thing in this game. However, the one thing we do have to talk about is that in Call of Duty World War II, there isn't a ton of flinch. That being said, when in conjunction with a weapon with a lot of recoil, like some of the LMGs in the game, the flinch and the recoil make it very difficult to aim. On top of that, still, it's going to help you win gunfights by adding less flinch. That being said, the other really great thing about this perk is you get an additional attachment. Even if you're using the infantry division and already getting 3 attachments, if you use primed, then you're going to get 4 attachments. Unlike scoped, where you don't get additional movement speed while aiming down sights, with this one you still get that additional attachment. And that's one of those things that really makes this perk so good. You get an extra attachment, and on top of that, it's going to help you win gunfights. And those in conjunction make this perk what I believe to be the best in the game. But guys, if you disagree with me, let me know down in the comment section below. Like I always say, this does come down to personal opinion. This is what I enjoy playing with, and if you enjoy playing with other perks, let me know down in the comment section below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, it would be greatly appreciated if you could hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel and like what you see, you can always hit that subscribe button as I upload new Call of Duty videos every single day of the week. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and until next time, peace out.